In for a real treat today. We have D3 Technologies presenting some fascinating content on drawing automation and sales automation, connecting that with e-commerce. So very grateful for them being here today and helping us out, trying to show what different things we can do to streamline our business and make them more connected and more customer friendly and customer focused, while in turn also improving our bottom line. So kind of all win-win-win. So to get started, just a little thought-provoking information from my favorite expert, Dilbert. And being today, we were doing something focused on sales. It seemed like a excellent message. So if you're like most companies, your sales are probably actually through the roof. So streamlining them would be a great benefit. And thinking about ways to standardize them and move them into some kind of a digital tool is likely going to provide significant benefit to you and your company. So looking at that, just a brief announcement. This webinar is brought to you due to funding that we received. Because of that, you may end up getting a survey in the future. Even if you didn't get impact per se from this, although I hope you do and you start moving in this direction. You know, if what we did was good, 8 is not great. 9s and 10s are hopefully the way to go. And if we didn't, let us know why we didn't provide a 10 to you today. So just a little bit of introduction before we get into the technology side. If you're like most of the companies I'm talking to, you're feeling stretched in every direction. You try to row harder and harder, but you don't seem to get anywhere. And when you do take a minute to look around, it turns out that the sharks are already at your boat and there's some kind of a leak. So let's try to avoid that by bringing you technology to help make all of those things more visible. That was the idea behind this group, was trying to bring everybody together. Industry 4.0 is not something that any one person can do. You can't connect your whole business. You can't automate value streams if you don't start talking to more people and getting somebody like an orchestrator that helps make the connections and make things happen. So that's the idea behind this group. And as part of the idea behind that group is that we're sharing kind of where we're at and what we're doing. So I'd like everybody to at least make an attempt to say hello. And after you give us kind of your name, organization, you know, what has 2021 been for you, been like for you? So if we can go down the list, I see a phone number first. I don't know who it is. If you want to unmute and say hello, welcome, John.
You talking to me?
Yeah, my name's Scott Wayne.
Oh, go ahead.
Hello,
my name's
John.
Scott. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
John Deeza, go ahead.
Okay, I'm John Gisa. I teach at UW-Stout. I'm the head of the operations and management department. 2021 is calling for a change in a new direction. The pandemic also has pointed us into a different direction, how to manage our organizations and make it more profitable. Yeah.
Thank you, John. Mr. Belmonte?
Yes, I'm John Belmonte, president of Mitotech Precision here in Necedah. And that caught my eye on this presentation was it was about the marketing or sales side, something that we have not focused on as far as automation, although we've taken automation in the plant to various levels. I really wanted to find out what was going on in this area, so to get smarter. So, what was the last question, Tom? You wanted us all to answer?
2021 has been blank.
Oh yeah, it's been definitely we were very extremely busy last year, and we seem to be even more busy this year, and it's really put again constraints on our capacities and things like that. And again, it just continues to point to automation because we all know that the people aren't pounding on our doors to come in and work for us. So continued on that, I don't see that getting better anytime soon.
Okay, sounds good. Then we'll move on to the next person in the list, and Ben from Fremart.
All right, there. I think I got it working now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Ben.
All right.
Morning.
Yeah, my name is Ben Kenospie from Freemark Innovations. I'm kind of just going to speak for the two or three of us that are on here. They're having some microphone issues too, I think. But I work in research and development here. We do aluminum curtain wall products. 2021 has been okay. The biggest change we've seen has been supplier lead times. You know, things that were normally 1 to 2 months out are now up to 6 months out. You know, one of the things we also do is we do a lot of repetition in our drawings. So any way to automate that is of great interest to us. So that's kind of why we've got three of us here tuning in.
Great. Thanks, Ben. Chris Kennard from PMI.
Good morning, everyone. Chris Kennard from PMI in Bloomer, Wisconsin. We're a metal stamping, metal service center, metal fabricator. I have about 160 employees. They allow me to work here as the president so far. It's early in the day, though. I'm excited to hear just about any type of automation we can add, because our trouble in 2021 and 2020 and every year before is finding enough employees to get the work done that our customers are asking us to do. So excited to hear what we have today.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Mr. Dave Scott.
Hey, I'm on the D3 team, so
Oh,
nice to
okay.
meet everybody here. You
Go ahead.
oh, okay. Well, I'm just on the D3 enterprise team, so I've got some experience in what you guys are going to hear about today.
Thank you, Dave. We have somebody from Prent.
Good morning, Don Handler with Prent Corporation, Vice President of Product Development. 2021 has been, there's a lot of analogies that we could use with 2021, but it has been a good year for Prent and for the high-end automations. Labor market has been difficult, as most probably know, but I think the materials and getting even product to us, our suppliers are really struggling at getting at continuing to keep up with the demand. So it's an enigma year, and we'll see where it goes from here. So I'm just curious to hear everybody's opinion on what's going to happen.
All right. Gonna skip over George. Although if George, you look like you were ready, so you want to go ahead and say hello.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm George Williams. I've been with D3 14 years last month, and I'll be doing a presentation here in a moment. But a couple quick notes from my experience. We've been doing automation projects, part of D3 for 14 years, and prior to that, I was with High-Troll Conveyor for 7 years. Worked from design engineer up to director of engineering and IT. Over roughly 70 people on that team. And I say that to say this, that what I talk about in these presentations is not a bunch of automation code stuff. It's all about, should we do it? Not just can we do it, but should we be doing these things? And we bring an engineering perspective to everything we do, because that's who we are. We're engineers. We we believe we are like you, right? And so we want to make tools that mere mortals like myself can implement on our own and have real value for our companies. 2021, better than 2020, we'll say that, right? And it's going up. And 2021 for automation was hot, and 2021 is even hotter. You know, I hear a common theme already of people, where are they? And I hear that a lot. And I have that John Lennon song, Imagine All the People, but I keep saying, where are all the people, right? Where are they, right? They're just gone. And so that's where automation can really come in and augment your team, right? So anyway, you're going to hear enough from me, so I'll move on. Let you move on.
Thank you, George. We have a Mr. Mack, or maybe.
Hi, my name's Given Mack. I'm the owner of Alpha Wire EDM in Wausau, and I specialize in extrusion breaker plates and general like CNC machining. Been in business for about 5 years. I'm the only person. I'm a one-man show. I'm just looking at 2021, seeing how busy I am right now, and it seems to be getting busier, and I'm getting stretched pretty thin. So I thought this would be a interesting topic to explore, see how much I could help myself.
Good, great. Moving on, Mr. Barry, Jason Barry. God dang it.
Mic issues is what's going on
Okay.
there. So keep.
Jim Frame.
I'm Jim
Morning.
Frame. I work at Wisconsin Bench in Thorpe. I'm the product engineering manager here. And for us, 2021 has been crazy. Where our business is completely through the roof. And as you can imagine, it's difficult to try to attract engineering talent to Thorpe, Wisconsin. So anything we can do to automate and reduce our reliance on humans would certainly be a win for us.
Thank you, Jim. Let's see, we have Mr. Joe Ernie, sorry.
Morning, I'm with the D3 team as well. So I got about 20 years of doing this in Wisconsin area with various companies. And I guess the biggest theme out of this that George will speak to and stuff is that there's just a renewed interest in automation across the board in 2021. We're seeing it in our customers and then new customers coming to us with that desire as well. So looking forward to it.
Thank you. Jordan Krieger. Good morning.
Jordan has added to the chat.
Okay.
Engineering manager at Wise Harness Solutions 2021 has seen a significant increase in demand, but has been a struggle to add to our labor force. Adding automation to our sales and engineering side of things is a very interesting topic.
Thank you, Jordan. Josh Wood.
Well, got to get the mute button. Josh Wood, I'm with the D3 team as well. My role is Enterprise Solutions, and I cover Wisconsin and a number of other states. So work with George hand in hand, and I would say 2021 has been definitely busy. We see a lot of companies that are like yourselves that are experiencing resource constraints, supplier lead time constraints, and there's a push or a drive to just create efficiencies where they can.
Thank you, Josh. We have Joshua Perrone. Morning.
Morning. Josh Perrin from Croy Gear and Machining, the engineering manager or lead. 2021 has been crazy. Nothing but high demand for parts, and everybody held their held their inventory to a really low stock. And now soon as January 1st hit, it was just insane. Like everyone else has said, the workforce is, the demand for people is insane, and automation is just the way we've been going, and we have some, and we're looking to go that way even more, just because we don't see the workforce growing at all or much. But
Yep, very true. We have Kyle. Morning.
Hey, I'm Kyle Keeneman from Air Pro Fan and Blower in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. I'm the research and development manager here. 2021 is same as everyone else has said, just crazy. We've had a lot of infrastructure changes to the IT system, as well as plans to expand buildings, and sales have gone through the roof. We're having a hard time trying to hire enough people. Like everyone else, we've hired quite a few, but just can't seem to get enough hands on deck. So it's been everyone on overtime, go, go, go type of year, and we're after it. It's exciting, but it's difficult. The automation's exciting, so that's why I'm here.
It is. Thank you, Kyle. Mark, you want to say hello?
Yeah. Hi. Thanks. Yeah, Mark Lakovic, one of the principals of D3. Just happy to be here and supporting all of you and the MOC. We've been reaching out to a number of other MEPs across the country, which started because of Ron, and we've done work with the Milwaukee MEP in the past as well. And all I can tell you is everything that you're all saying, it's happening across the entire United States as well. Companies have really derailed with COVID last year. A lot of automation projects and customers we were working with, they were kind of kicking the can because their priorities had shifted to things like communicating remotely and collaborations and all of those things. But it seems like everybody really is getting back onto digital transformation. And so hopefully, you appreciate what we'll be showing you today. I think some really exciting stuff that we're doing, and really helping customers with some of these very specific business initiatives that you're all trying to solve. So appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Glad you're here. Thanks, Mark. And Bob Oliver, my peer and
Sure, Bob Oliver, Stout Manufacturing Outreach, partner in crime with Ron and Heidi. Growth advisor and business development is what I do. The one thing I'll share is about a month ago, 60 Minutes had a segment on robotics. And it's pretty exciting seeing where the technology is going. I'm looking forward to seeing what we hear today, but that 60 Minute, they had robots actually dancing. So the technology is coming along to really help with this shortage in the workforce, and to reemphasize also that we just continue to hear, supply chain issues, and encourage you to keep looking at your supply chains, because I personally don't think we're at the peak of the problem yet. There's just too much of it out there. So looking forward to seeing and hearing the stuff today, though.
Great. Thank you, Bob. So we'll move on. Most of you already know us, so I'll move through this stuff pretty quick. But we're measured by impacts. That's how we maintain our funding. So a significant thing about the way we do what we do is to make sure that you change your business. If you don't change your business, it doesn't have an impact. So we're all about making impacts to your business. On average, we get around $40 to $45 million a year. So that's a pretty good return on taxpayer dollars and benefits to the economy of our state. All of us talk about what we do a little differently, but more or less, we're here to help small manufacturing companies in whatever way we can. That falls into a few buckets. But the place that we normally like to start is the discovery system. So the challenge is right now, you're probably pulled in lots of directions. Everybody thinks they're going the right way. How do we start talking again, especially when we've been separated for almost a year, so that we are pulling the same way and that we're all focusing. Really, manufacturing is in an all hands on deck nationwide. There aren't people, and we need to take advantage of technology, but how does that fit into your other priorities? So what have we learned from doing this for about a year? I'd say without a doubt, all of us are feeling disruption. The number one is usually labor and workforce. Number two is in technology. And I'd say, you know, the first part of the year, this wasn't, or last year, but this year's supply chain has come up as an issue for almost every place that we're at. You know, some places out to an 18-month lead time. It's just incredible. So what do we want to help you do? We don't need to make you the fastest runner. We just don't want you to be the slowest. So any way I can help you guys do that, the better. And to transition from that into our conversation today, I'm beginning to be convinced that I am plugged into the matrix, because a day before I need something, it shows up in my inbox. So yesterday, the Census Bureau published their 2018 e-commerce report. And if it says you think online retail is the largest e-commerce, think again. So anybody want to guess what the largest e-commerce section actually is? Manufacturing. Manufacturing is the largest in e-commerce. It ranks number one. So I have a couple graphs on that. I have the link here. I'll share that. It's great information. This is an example of the total economy and then how much of it is e-commerce. You can see manufacturing, basically 2/3 of manufacturing is e-commerce. So 67% of all shipments were through an e-commerce based platform. And that's neat, but I think the trend is more impressive to look at, you know, going all the way back to 99. You know, we're up to almost 70%, and this is as of 2018. I don't know how many of you want to guess what that line has done since 2018. I'm guessing it went mostly vertical the last 2 years. So kind of as a benchmark, if you're a manufacturer and 60 to 70% of your business is not e-commerce, you have an opportunity to get caught up. And that's what the tools we're going to talk to about today are. So with that, George, you're welcome to swipe the screen. Thanks.
There we go. See my screen okay? Ventures and automation. All right, so
good to go.
I know we have a wide range of people in the audience today in different roles in each company. There should be something for everyone in here. We have a number of examples, and we won't get too codey, right? But we will talk about that because it's important to give you the confidence that you can do this work and have good benefit for your businesses. I found it pretty interesting as I heard you all go through 2021 means this and challenges in your business. There's a theme there of we've invested a lot in the plant, we've invested a lot in maybe engineering, but maybe not so much in sales and that automation side of it. And we see that a lot. You would be probably shocked by the number of companies that we deal with that have revenue in literally the billions that are running huge divisions of those companies on Excel in the sales team, because that's worked for them, but it doesn't really work anymore, right? We know all those challenges. And so don't feel bad, is what I'm trying to say. Excel's a great tool. You've all made money on it or whatever things that you've done to get you here, but what got you here won't get you there. And so what's the next step? And so that's where we can talk about those things. And you know, it is an adventure in automation, trying to choose your right path. And so again, this time is for you. There should be something here for everyone. Try not to tune out if it's not in your world. And if you've got questions, Heidi, Ronald, just stop me, right? If someone's putting things in the chat so that we can address those as we go. All right. So this first slide is about why, right? Why do we want to do this? We want to take these people, as few as they are these days, and turn them into superheroes. We don't necessarily want to replace them. We want to augment them. We want to let them fly around and do amazing things with the talent that you've got and the new talent that you hire. And clearly your rules are your business. That's what makes you you. Those rules prevent disasters in your business, and they also set expectations. We talk about resources are limited with raw materials, suppliers, people, only so many hours in the day, all that stuff. Well, if we barely have enough time to do it once, we certainly don't have enough time to do it 2 and 3 times. And so the rules help us prevent those disasters of redoing. And that's one thing that kind of is lost in some of these discussions of, oh, we want to augment people. We also want to make it so that we don't do rework. And that's a big point with this. And rules help us do that because they give us a single source of truth. And you would be amazed by some of the discussions we've had with engineers where they will get red-faced about dimensions, right? And it's kind of comical. I mean, I'm an engineer, I kind of get it, right? And so in the end of the day, we figure out, is it 1 or 2, right? Is it 3 or 4? What is it? It can't be 1 if it's 1 or 2 on Tuesdays with a full moon, fine, let's write the rule. But we're going to figure out that single source of truth for your company. And so we're going to take all that, what's called tribal knowledge, and codify it, put it in code, put it in 0 and 1. So we put that single source of truth out there. And also we store all the inputs for every configuration that comes in so that we know, how did we get here? And back in my days of manufacturing, we would get orders that would have question marks on them. Can we still do this? An order isn't supposed to ask questions, right? We should be declaring things, not interrogating things, right? And so, how did we get there? How do we prevent questions at the time of order entry? And I'll share another war story here with you from back in the day. I was a new engineer at Hydro at the time, and I had made a mistake. Right? And I go down to the bill of material engineer and I say, okay, I kind of messed this up. And he says, yep, you should have read this memo. And he pulls out his drawer. He had been there since a million years, right? He pulls out his drawer and he pulls out a memo and he hands it to me and says, this would have solved the problem, prevented the problem. So, okay, I'm reading this memo. And I looked at the date and I said, well, Jim, so I'll do this from now on. But, when this memo was written, I was in 8th grade. So how would I have known, right? I know now. And so that's great. And so we want to give your people the way to keep them between the ditches so that they don't make those mistakes. And so when they're in 8th grade, they can focus on riding their BMX bike and not worry about what Jim had in a memo that they're going to get, a hand slap 15 years later. So those are the types of problems we're trying to solve so that the people that you do hire, you don't frustrate them and they go somewhere else because they didn't know about the memo from 8th grade. And we also want to revise designs in real time. Again, I'm going to appeal to the engineering personalities on the call. As an engineer, I want to make changes. That's what I want to do. I want to improve things. That's why I went through all this training. I want to solve problems. But when we go into manufacturing and we've got next assemblies, we've got piles of drawings that we have to revise. When we want to make a simple change, that's very frustrating. And it got to the point, I'll go back to my days in the conveyor world. We came up with a change, an improvement that was going to save the company $80,000 a year, this bearing to new bearing. And there were 1,800 drawings we had to change. Well, guess what? This is prior to automation. We already had a pile of stuff to do. And so it took us 18 months to implement that change. So we left $120,000 on the table because we just couldn't get to it because of our own library, our own system, our own infrastructure that we created to try to help us, but really it was shackling us from making these changes. And so in this new world, we do things on the fly, it's generative. We make changes immediately. We change the rule and we say, thou shalt not use this bearing, thou shalt use this new bearing. And then we immediately realize that $80,000 a year savings. Now, I'd love to have an extra $120,000, and I know the business would have loved to have that, but we just couldn't get to it because we were doing other things that were higher priority that took our attention. And again, those are things that frustrate engineers. They want to make those changes. They don't want to come in and say, I got to change 2,000 or 3,000 drawings. No, that's frustrating for them. So we want to configure, we want to augment your team and make superheroes out of it for those few that you have, that you can find. All right, enough preaching, enough of that. We'll move into some of the meat of it here. So we understand the struggle is real as we go through here, because it's not just about finding that developer or investigator, but it's also finding the truth. What is the truth? And I saw a couple of screenshots Ronald had up there with some boats, and I use that boat analogy a lot. You're probably building the boat as you float down the river in a lot of ways, right? Trying to hope that you get it running before the waterfall hits. And so you're finding the truth and then coding the truth. There's a struggle there. And so how do you do this and still keep the lights turned on? And so we really are big proponents of find something that has a lot of value for your company, go solve that problem and let it be self-funding from then on. You know, start small, deliver sooner and more often so that you can get that value and keep on rolling, right? Just start moving, right? It's like anything you do, exercise, whatever, start moving. And so then you have the developer integrator person who's going to put it together for you. And so their challenge is, especially in today's world, connecting all these various systems and servers, and it can get very complicated to do all of that. Connecting various APIs, and that's just an abbreviation for programming interface. How do you tell this robot, the CAD system, Excel, Word, whatever, right? How do you tell this piece of software to go do stuff automatically? And that's what an API is. It's the interface that we would use, but they're not all the same. They're all different, but they're all built by different people. And so that can be difficult to have someone that can do all of that and be that unicorn. So our tools help out with that. So we want you to focus so you can find ways on solving those new issues, finding that truth, and then coding the truth as you go through, and focus less on resolving those issues that other people have already solved. And we believe that our platform gives you a head start on that. Stand on the shoulders of others. If you think the problem's been solved, hey, it's 2021. It probably has. There's a lot we can do in 2021. Now, the question always is, should we be doing it? But can we do it? Probably yes. And so we give you a head start, focused on manufacturing with an engineering perspective. And so we say our platforms make possible become practical so that you can do these things. And so again, CAD system, they have their own programming interface. So that bare metal access to the programming interface is extremely powerful. You can do anything, but it might be too impractical to really dig in and be an expert at that. Stand on the shoulders of others. We have the scars on our knuckles of knowing all the ways that the CAD systems, all their idiosyncrasies to make the thing give you the output that you want in an automated way. And also simplify design automation. We have 3 modules we call ruler config, ruler model, and ruler draw. Those are the 3 basic things that every manufacturing in the front office is doing. You're configuring it in your sales team to get a quote, to get an order, to say this is a good order. That's that robot's purpose. And then model is to do the models as if an engineer would do them. And then drawing is to annotate, document, report on that model data that you've got. So each one of those components can work independently or together. And that's a big theme here, is that it's not some huge monolithic application. Each thing can work independently or together, give you that success that you need. Tailor it for your company. Okay, so let's do a little quick demo here. I'll set the stage of what we're going to talk about. So we have our vessel configurator demo set, and I've got plenty of screenshots from various projects, but this is one that just gives us a quick demo here. And so this is running in the cloud, but it can run behind your firewall. It can run wherever you want, right? We don't have any restriction on that. And so in this particular world, these are for pressure vessels, and they can read in analysis files to make sure the thing's not a bomb, literally, and bring it in the application. Well, those analysis files fall short on everything that goes into pressure vessel because they may have a vortex breaker. fancy way of saying the little cross at the in the drain in your shower to keep a vortex from being in the drain and the fill of the application. And so within there, we're able to read this file and then add value-added engineering pieces to this analysis file that tells us we've got the answer. Now these are real-time graphics. Now they're low detail, and the reason they're low detail is because on the web less is more. We want lightning fast graphics. And so, we can give you complete detail, every bolt hole, everything, but you're going to pay the price, and the price is time. Because again, it's 2021, we can do a lot, but we still have to obey the laws of physics still until the aliens show up next week, I understand, or maybe today, I'm not sure what the timing is. But until then, we have to still abide by the laws of physics that some server has to bundle up this information and send it over a wire to my machine here, right? So the less information we send over, the faster it is. And so within this application, we've got full bill of material. I have labor calculated. I've got material cost calculated. We have rules in here that the customers come up with that say if this thing is so large, we can use the automatic welder and we can get different rates and different labor operations come in and they can see how this all rolls up. If their customer sees this, they don't want to see the cost, right? They just want to see the price. And so we can tell who you are and what you get to see in the application. And it's very important to the sales team to be able to look at this and say, okay, well, we're all right on margin, we're not, what do we need to do? How do we need to change this? And so they've got all this information that every time I make a change is automatically updating in the application. So they see everything that goes into this pressure vessel. And so an outsider looking in says, well, that's not that complicated. A lot of labor that goes into it, right? I'm just scrolling through here. This thing's 8 feet wide, 8-foot diameter, I believe. So it's a big deal. So at the end of this process, they would go through and they would set, I want insulation, which the analysis file doesn't care about. I want to do all these other options. I want to have testing, all these different things that go into this particular configuration. And they would push the button to cue the sales drawing. And they can also create production drawings where they can do download outputs for that. So like any good cooking show, we're going to push the button and watch that happen, but I do have some that are pre-configured, so let's just bring those up on another page here. That's over here. I'll look at the model file for that one as well. But I do want to push the button and watch this queue up, and you can see how long it takes to create these. So on this machine, I'm not sure what time that machine is located at, but that's fine. Let's just create our sales drawing. So this is queuing it up to a remote server somewhere that's going to fire up, in this case, Inventor, and create Inventor models and Inventor drawings. So it's just running through these three. It says I've got success. It's telling me that I've queued them up, and our magic number here is 239. So that's not our number, right? We're 939. So let's just use that as it's pretty much common. All right. So what did we get out of that? This is the type of model that will come out from it. And it's a real Inventor model at that point. You see all my level of detail that I've got in it. And I can see all the different pieces that I've got in it. So the insulation coming out. So it's anatomically correct. This is as if an engineer would have created it. So you may say, well, what if it can't do anything, right? No, it can't. It can do what it's been told to do. What if you have some customer that says, I want to weld a picture of grandma on the side? Okay, great. That's value added. You can take this model and go put picture of grandma on the side. But it's as if an engineer has created it with all the rules that you've got in the company. And so the drawing that we produce is pretty simple for this particular example. And let's take a look at it. So I do want to bring up something about drawings, and I leave these errors in this demo on purpose because I want to talk about what automation can and can't do. What's practical about automation? Do you see these dimensions overlap? This is where we get into a challenge with drawing automation. Model automation is about has or has not, is or is not, 0 or 1. Drawing automation, its core is like that, But it's not only has this dimension or does not have that dimension, it's has this dimension and looks good. There's a third state. You bring in, you know, pesky humans on, that doesn't look good. Well, the computer says it has the dimension, right? Can I code this so that it knows to offset and move out and avoid all these things? Yes. But we start to get into the law of diminishing returns for that. If I gave this to an engineer and this were all annotated, you tell me how much time it would take for him to grab this dimension and move it up. Negligible. And I could tell you to program that. We can do a lot, right? And we can help with this offsetting. I could tweak this and do some things to help out, but you're always going to get into some place where dimensions is going to overlap because it's a snowflake configuration. So that's just some of the warning I would throw out there when you look at drawing automation, is that you get into this looks good problem, right? Which is solvable, but you may work on that instead of paying the light bill. All right, so 239. Look at that, 241. In 2 minutes, we got that drawing out. Not only did we get that one out, we got out this one. And we got out this one. We got out the models for that one. So we're doing things in parallel because we're throwing it on some remote server, and in 2 minutes, it created that model, that drawing, that's crazy, and that drawing, right? So it's pretty fast for 2 minutes. I would say that probably take a human more than 2 minutes to create this drawing and create that model. Constrained correctly and everything in the right spot per the order in the analysis file. That was some of the report. It's pretty fast, right? And so let's think of the other. Feel free to type questions. Yeah, so and you can stop me because I'm not looking at the question right now. So let's move into something to give a sense of how long would it take to create something like this. And I like to show this demo because I did this over a weekend, and I purposely limited myself to 16 hours. I happen to know something about conveyors, so is it cheating? No, because you happen to know something about your business, right? And so I went to the perspective, have the perspective of this of I am an engineer who knows the rules, right? And so we have seed projects that stub out this user interface for you automatically. And you can come in and push the button and you get all this nice professional looking, makes me look like a superhero. And everything I did in here, again, model included, I did in 16 hours. So I'm going to create a conveyor. So within this conveyor, this has our layout functionality in it. So I'm going to put in a straight section. And also within the 16 hours, I went to a manufacturer and just downloaded some PDFs and made a conveyor off of that, right? And so here's a nice little section, and as I want to make changes to this thing, I can say, okay, I'm making my changes in width. You can see it update in real time very quickly. And I can change my length down to 2000 if I wanted to. That's going to update quickly. But what if I wanted to make it 1500? Because I'm a newbie engineer. Watch what happens in this area when I do that. Value must be greater than or equal to 2000. Kept me between the ditches. I didn't make that mistake from the 8th grade memo, right? So it rejected my input and set me back to 2000, but it also told me what's up, right? Why I couldn't do that. So anytime you see this little reset means this is something a user has changed. The place where we said we store down all the inputs forever, this is stored down forever. I know what those sales folks have changed about the base configuration, the base rules. Now, because of these two little inputs, it drives a whole lot of parameters within this model. You guys know the game, right? So I'm going to take this back out and let's do something a little more interesting here. Put a little curve conveyor on it, and let's go put another curve on it. Again, it's 16 hours, so I didn't make a left and right. I just made one that does both, right? That's 180. Put another curve on it and spin this around. Right here. Bring it back to the straight section. So if I like this configuration, I'm done. I've got measuring ability in here. what are my dimensions on various things. It's CAD like for the sales folks. We don't want to make it too much like CAD because that's not their world. They need to be able to do some simple layout like this that knows the connections and knows what's legal to attach to different things, and they need to be able to do measurements. And then you'd be able to see a bill of material. Now, my simple example, I just made up some silly numbers. We spent $4.50. So if I come over here now and sales comes back and they get a revision, they say the customer, they change things in the plant and they really want to swing this thing around. We want to make changes fast. So within here, I want to change this to 90 degrees. Just swing the whole thing around. And they say, you know what? This thing needs to be, instead of 320, it needs to be 400. It's when I do that, everyone's connected and you'll see them all get wider. Watch it go down to the narrow part or the high part. Again, the conveyor can get very complicated, just like your product scan, but this is simple. Those are the 16 hours I keep talking about. But at the end of this process, I would go and I would push create outputs and click and show and get it over in inventory. So now we've got conveyor. And within here, I can increase the level of detail and get real inventory components, real inventor models. And I don't have to live in a world that is low level of detail. I put a full level of detail to get at the manufacturing steps. All right. I always like questions. If you got any questions, hit me up. If not, we'll keep going. So back to the demo, back to the presentation. Okay, so what just happened? We configured it, and then we pushed that button in the vessel configurator. We sent it to what's called Autodesk Forge, which is just invented in the cloud. We also support SolidWorks. It doesn't have to be invented. We are working on Trios for it as well. And so that's just not released yet. So the same thing with the drawing piece. Once the models got finished, then we have another process kick off and go create the drawings. And we'll show you how that all works here in a moment. So the whole point is we keep things loosely coupled. That's a there's programming lingo to say modular Legos, right? I grew up in the Lego generation. So we want to be able to send a model or send data to the modeler and get a model out. We want to be able to send any model, created by ruler or not, to the drawing engine and get a drawing out. We want to create data that goes to the modeler that communicates directly with the drawing engine, gets us a drawing out on the back end. So we can just link these things together because when we do keep it loosely coupled, we can tailor the ruler solution to your problem set that you're trying to solve. I'll fix my presentation in a minute. So really, it's about choosing your own adventure. It doesn't have to use the configuration engine. You can have another solution that sends that same data file of modeling and didn't get the model out. Or you can send a model to the drawing engine. You can have your other solution. If you just want to do ruler draw, have at it, right? You don't have to purchase a big model, you just do draw. Because you have some other solution that can create that model that ruler draw can pick up on and roll forward. So a big idea here is that your rules are the IP, not the CAD system. I'm watching my time here. I'll pick it up just a little bit. And so we want to send text to the modeling engine and get models back. It does not matter to us whether it comes from Excel, iLogic as an inventor technology, Autodesk Vault, ruler config, or some really cool automation we don't even know about yet. It doesn't matter. You send us the text, we send you the models. The generative design, we want to create custom models from this text. JSON is just a fancy way of saying structured text that represents your data. And we're very iLogic compatible. If you have anyone on your team that's doing iLogic, then they will love to do it. That's been the feedback we've gotten. Revise on the fly. Engineering revision is a critical component and functionality set inside of Ruler. It knows how to make changes and apply them to your models as you just do regular engineering revision control outside of the Ruler system. And we're going to show some examples here. We want to change the change game, right? So you can make one input change and we can very quickly go from a square cover to a round cover. There's a whole lot that changed when we did that. But from the sales perspective, they're just wanting to make changes quick. And we, from the engineering perspective, we want them to give us a good order. One that isn't question marks or same as except, which just is a fancy way of saying different. And let the robot handle those tough problems. This thing is 20 feet tall, 23,000 pounds, 5,000 components, 120 layers. That's a layer stacked on top of each other, and absolutely zero room for error. Each layer is welded as a complete solid block of aluminum when it's done. So 23,000 pound block of aluminum that if something's wrong, good thing you can recycle aluminum because that's what you're going to do. And so Ruler can take this information and go automatically create these extremely complex routes throughout here. That we can turn fluid through here and get an input and an output and make sure we're doing everything we need to do in this 23,000 pound block of aluminum that, especially in today's world, you got one shot and that's it. Other examples that we handle, and you can see this gives us an example of the level of detail. We want less is more, right? We want low level of detail so that sales can configure it, they get the good idea. And also, if you've got your end users, you don't want to give away the farm, right? You give them enough information that they can make the decision of what they want, but then this is the actual detail that is created in the vector models and sent out to them. You can just go from there. Other examples, just simple conveyor where this is the level of detail that you're seeing in the browser, but within what's actually ready for manufacturing has all the level of detail that you need. Very high detail graphics that we support within here as well. And this is another layout type problem, like a conveyor type world. And also extremely high, large assembly capability. The warehouse rack, we're putting those in 1 million square foot facilities. This is for a telescopic seating company, and this particular model has 13,000 occurrences. And what is awesome about this example is when we did this, this is from a benchmark for them when we delivered the application. And it took them 10 minutes to enter the inputs in the browser. And it ran for 21 minutes to create 440 models, 13,000 occurrences, and 440 drawings as well. CNC files, bills of material, ready to go to the shop. And I asked, is there anything left to do? Do we have to do a column cutout? And they said, nope, not for this order. That was it. I said, awesome. So 31 minutes were done, nothing else to be done, ready to go to the shop. Yep. I said, well, how long did that take prior to the system? And they laughed. They said, 495 hours of engineering time. Wow. We knew we were going to give them a big input, a big benefit, but we're talking like 97% reduction in effort, which as an engineer I love because they don't have to make these things, 16th inch taller and wider than the last one. They can go concentrate now on how do I go improve the product to make it even better for manufacturing, safety, cost, all that, not spend my time making this thing a little bit bigger than the last one. And so that's the type of solutions we're trying to give here. It's not 25% improvement in productivity. You can tighten your belt somewhere and find that. We're in the order of magnitude type stuff, right? We're looking at at least 50% improvement. And really, that's really not worth the struggle, right? On this, we want to see because the struggle is finding the rules, codifying it, having those red-faced arguments with your engineers, all of that. We're looking at 70, 80, in this case, 97% reduction in effort. It's real. It's happening around the country. So, and the models for the drawings, we send the models and we get drawings. And I'm looking at my time here. I'm going to try to roll on through these. But you need to see this big idea. We had the epiphany, the dove landed on our shoulder from heaven of drawings are to models like reports are to a database. So you've got an ERP, you've got a database, and someone's giving you a report out of it, most likely. Well, what stands between that report and the database is some markup that says, take this data from the database and put it in these fonts and these columns and these headers and these colors and whatever, right? That's what stands between the report and the raw database. Well, what is a drawing? Is it anything more than a report on a CAD model? It's not, it's the same thing. So we had the epiphany of, let's just go and have a markup between the drawing and the model. Simplify this thing. So we said one markup to rule them all. And so that example that you saw online of the pressure vessel, and this is code, put your seatbelt on, right? But it's really not too bad. I'll show you what's really bad next, what we were replacing here. And so if we just, look at what's going on here, we're saying create a sheet, and under the sheet put a border and a title block. And then go create some vertical dimensions for and vertical dimensions for all the right components on the right sides, vertical dimensions for all the left components, and if there's more than one, offset them by 7/8 of an inch. Pretty simple, right? So you may say, well, that's really complicated, this and that. We train you on this, and engineers are off and rolling in 3 days. And they love it because it is the way that we think, right? We just want to create a sheet, put the view in a box, put some dimensions on the box, and move on. And so in 34 lines here of this markup, I can take any pressure vessel model and create an annotated drawing with the same chunk definition. Let's show you what this looked like in iLogic. So if you're familiar with iLogic, which is a way to automate inventor, this is the bare metal. SolidWorks has a similar technology. It's the bare metal way to do it on the left. This is all the code that it takes to create one dimension, which is pretty much the same length as our markup to create an entire drawing for any configuration that comes over. This is one dimension for one configuration. So you can see the difference here. And so when an engineer is looking at this, like, oh my gosh, I'll just create the dimension, move on. I don't want to automate this stuff, it's too tough. Well, we have this type of approach that we say we're creating a markup, we're reporting on the model data to create our drawing. All right, so we'll just go through a couple of examples here in the last few minutes. Drawings are not all about let's create them from scratch. For this customer, they had what's called cut to length type drawing. A lot of schedules, a lot of charts out there with dimensions A, B, C, and Q, right? Well, the challenge is in the shop, you've got this chart with this huge set of dimensions on it, and you've got this sheet that says A, B, C, and D, and you're telling them, oh yeah, make sure you get everything done on time, but also get out your magnifying glass in the low level of shop, with grease all over it or whatever, and try to match up these dimensions to this chart. Good luck. They're going to make mistakes. So in this world, we say, all right, we've got beam length, and we're just going to replace with the actual value because it's not scale anyways. So we do that in literally 5 lines of code. This is the markup for this. I can take any cut to length drawing and put the real dimensions in there and get rid of the reason of even having a chart anymore. And so the shop's going to get the drawing. It's going to say 100, 11.10, done. Right? They don't have to do any extra work as built. Drawings completely automated and dynamic. They can get very complex. This is AutoCAD outputs. This is, all these are fully annotated. This comes out of the automation system in just a few minutes. So quickly putting it all together. Build your solutions on the shoulders of other. Choose your own adventure. These loosely coupled solutions are very agile. And where do you go from here? Last slide. Bottom line, you can do it. You just get going. You always need to decide, do I build it or do I buy it? There's value in buying it. There's value in building it. But that's a big question always. And D3, we're here to help. We can help with modularity with our various components, and we offer cross-pollination. Because we've been there, done that with a lot of different folks around the country that are struggling with the same stuff you're struggling with. Everyone's different, just like everyone. Everyone's the same, just like everyone else. Everyone's unique, just like everyone else, right? That's the dynamic stuff. All right,
Thanks,
so I
George.
got 1 minute left.
I'm gonna grab the screen.
All right.
I hope. So we do have a question. So the rest of you, anybody else has a question, feel free to use the chat, or if you want, there's the raise your hand, and you can come on the camera and ask a question. But looking at the one question in the chat, John from Mitotech asks if there are any ITAR or other security constraints with this technology.
I don't have that answer, but I can get that to you. And I know that we have passed a very detailed security review with a company that's almost 200 billion in sales. Now we are their automation of choice. And, you know, part of the answer there is, number one, we're on Azure, right? And we're secure through that. But depending upon your use case, you may want to do it as a VM on a private Azure network. I know that we had to do that for one company. And also you can run this behind your own firewall, 100%. So if that's a major concern, you only want it internal, then it's as secure as your system is. And we don't know anything about it. All we know is you have a valid license, right? And share you from the sidelines. But I can reach out to senior architect on that and talk to them. You're welcome to meet with us afterwards and go through it. Some things I know and some things I don't. That's one of those that's my knowledge of it, right? But we passed a very rigorous security audit by a huge company, monstrous company.
Thank you, George. So I imagine other people have questions. So I think you touched on a little bit, but I'm curious. So do companies choose to implement this at different levels? Like first they do it maybe internally on their own system, then they let a certain amount of it go out to the web, you know, and or to a rep network. And then maybe some of them even have a certain level that's open source for any prospect to use that's not restricted by the sales network. Can you talk a little bit about that, the way that companies choose to deploy the solution to their customers?
We see all of those approaches. Some use it completely internally, only in the engineering team. Some use it internally just in sales and engineering. Others have the dealer network. Others have customer facing or end user facing type applications. And the way that we structure our licensing is we don't care if you have 1 user or 1 million. We're not charging per user, right? And also the way that we structure the licensing means we don't have to host it. You can host it yourself, and however you want to deploy it, have at it, right? That's great. And so we see it all because everyone's got a unique need in that regard. Now we do have user authentication, support multiple different types. And if you've got your own authentication system, we can tie into that. We can go to the Azure Active Directory and do all those things and say, even if we have one solution that says if you're an engineer, you got the cashier key, right? You can do anything. But if you're not an engineer, if you're that end user, you can only do a limited number of choices. We can even change the rule limits and choices based off of who you are, because the server knows who you are. Good question.
Great, thank you, George. Well, to be respectful of everybody's time, we are a little after 10. So I want to make sure I want to thank George for the great presentation and D3 Technologies for their partnership and bringing this great information to us. I think that's just incredible what can be done. And it's an area I think that there's a lot of opportunity. So if you want further, you're welcome to contact D3 directly. Or you can come through Bob, myself, or any of the other MOC project managers. And I believe Heidi tomorrow or in the next couple of days will send out an update, you know, with everybody's information and probably a copy of the slide deck so that you can choose to move ahead in this direction if you like. I certainly encourage you to. I've been a part of a company that invested in this in the late 90s. And a real leader in it. I think it was just fantastic what they were able to do. And I think it's really timely that these guys put it together into a package that gives you that power and that flexibility. So I really can't thank them enough for their time today. Last thing I want to leave you with is that as small manufacturers, we are the fast fish. It's not the same old world anymore. You can do it. You can really disrupt anybody. So if you want to work together and we work together, it's no different than the GameStop phenomenon or Reddit or any of these other things. Little fish are changing the world because you can move fast. And I know we're over on time, but I was shocked to find out like certain companies that had all of their commercial stuff shut down over the pandemic because they couldn't transition it to retail fast enough. And they lost millions potentially in revenue because they weren't able to transition. And lots of large companies had that happen, unfortunately. We're small and dynamic, Be a disruptor. Change the game. And if you like that and those lines of thought, Stout has other events coming up that I'd encourage you to get a part or be a part of. And that's everything I've got. And anybody who wants to hang on and ask either myself or George or Mark from D3 some questions, I think we're happy to do so. Otherwise, thank you for your time. Have a great day.